G'day guys, you're back with MiracleMAX. Look, it's going to be a fresh one today and there's snow on the way tomorrow, apparently. So what's limped into the workshop today, looking very, very sad for itself? It's a Hyundai i20 2015 model with that powerhouse of a 1.4 engine in it. I haven't needed to take it for a road test because the thing is clearly missing on a cylinder, or two maybe, who knows. It's pretty sad. The dollar sign is stuck on the dash, so we'll whack on the scan tool and see what the old Hyundai has to say for itself. So after a quick codes check, it's kind of obvious that we have a misfire. Just like I thought, I could certainly feel it, that's for sure. We've got a cylinder 1 misfire and a cylinder 3 misfire. That's interesting. I've had a brief look at freeze frame, couldn't really see anything there. I'm not going to erase the trouble codes right at the current stage. Let's head under the bonnet and just see if we can start with some basics and do some checks. Remember, number 1 and number 3. Do they have something in common? You can see that this is a coil over plug system, but one thing I am noticing, if I use my black pointy thing, is that this coil here has a pink wire going into it. That's number 1. This one has a green wire going into it. Number 2. Number 3 has another pink wire going into it. And then number 4 has a white wire going into it. Other wires, this one here is white-black by the looks, black-yellow, black-white, and oops. And then I think that's black-white as well. So just for now, I'm not going to pull off any of the connectors here, here and here. Don't want to touch this one, don't want to touch anything, simply because I may inadvertently repair it. Hey, look, I doubt it. But just the same, I want to do some testing without disturbing anything. So I'm just going to back probe it with my little dressmaking pins. As you can see, ignition is turned on. This is a basic 2-wire configuration coil over plug. So for testing purposes, this is my positive side. There we go. We've got a positive. But believe it or not, with the ignition turned on, there'll be passive voltage there. And that will be sitting, waiting for it to be triggered inside the ECU. That's where the MOSFET's hidden. And that should switch it off and on at a regular rate. We'll do that later. But I just want to make sure that I've got power to each one of my coils, which I have. Let's slide over to this one and get past my weather seal if at all possible. And yes, I have got power there. Whoops, there we go. Power's there. Power's there. And finally, power's there. So I know I've got power to each one of my coils. And as you can see, I've already got these set up. Here, 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 and here. Blah, 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 blah. Ready for it to be started. But before we check our negative side of the ignition coils, we need to do a change with our LED test light. This bloke here is normally going onto an earth somewhere, hopefully the battery earth, and you would get a red light here, wouldn't you? But we're going to check the negative side of the coil. So this fella, believe it or not, needs to go onto the positive side of the battery, and we should see a triggering of like a red-green type flash off and on this side when we check the coils. So this side goes onto the positive at this point. Let's start her up and see what she does. So with the vehicle now running, we're going to check the pulsing from the ECU to the ignition coils. So there's number 1, that was one of the faulty ones. You can see that there's a nice trigger pulse there. Number 2, good trigger pulse there. Number 3, there he is, good trigger pulse, bad connection. And number 4, a good trigger pulse as well. So I've got no trouble with what the ECU is doing. I can go further now. I don't have to worry about my wiring or anything like that, or the ECU. I can go straight to either the ignition coil or to the spark plugs themselves. I've done a resistance check on all of my coils and they all read the same, roughly round about 1.1 ohm, which is okay. They all are consistent. That's the important thing. What's next? So I've got my spark plugs out now together with the accompanying coils, as you can see, and these fellas are for schnookered. Like, they're not very happy at all. Now this guy hasn't had this vehicle for all that long, and I'd say that these spark plugs haven't been replaced at the correct intervals, because they're definitely not happy, are they? And a couple other tests that I'm going to do. I'm going to replace my spark plugs, of course, but there's some other testing that you can do on the insulation of the coil itself. I'll show you how to do that once I put my plugs back in and get the thing up and running. You can see according to the service schedule here, the spark plugs are meant to be replaced, what's that, every 45,000 Ks. Now this guy hasn't had this vehicle all that long. I went back through my records just to find out if I, might have missed something. It happens. But I got his first vehicle, did the first service on at 101,000 Ks, and he's been getting it serviced regularly. The last one there is, what's that, 121,000 Ks. So I certainly didn't miss any spark plugs, so no doubt whoever worked on this before may have missed one set of spark plugs, who knows, maybe even two. But these guys were for schnookered. We'll chuck in some new ones and see how we go. Before I stick the ignition coils back in, I just want to do an insulation test on them. I've made up this function generator thingy that is able to fire up the ignition coils. You may have seen it in my other videos. And using this, I'm able to detect including an incandescent test light, just by going over here to see if there's any breakdown. Now one of these ignition coils has got a little bit of a doovie on it, there's a bit of a dodgy spot on it, so right there, and I'm just going to test it to see if that is okay or not. May have just grazed a bit on the cylinder wall as it came out, but we'll just test that anyway. So I'll put that there, we'll fire up this little beast and just do some testing. You can hear the cracking of the spark plug. So I'm just going over here with my incandescent test light to see if there's any insulation breakdown. Oh, yes there is, look at that. Did you see that? I'll show you in a sec. I'll get up closer to you so you can see it. I thought it might have been broken down there. There it is right there. It's got the shakes a bit, so it's not showing up too well. I'll get in close for you. Excellent. If you have a close look at the coil, this little insulator here has got a little bit of a dodgy spot happening, and I think that's where the insulation is breaking down. I've used an old spark plug just to try and stress the coil a little bit more. We should be able to see that. Let's just fire it up again. Wait till it start to crack. Can you see that? It was happening before quite often, but it's just not quite as much now. There it goes. See that? You can hear the cracks not coming out the spark plug, it's actually coming out this little area here. See the little spark? There you go. Perfect. Broken down insulation on a coil. Nice. Look, it'd be super easy just to replace the spark plugs and go, oh yeah, close enough. Then this would have an intermittent fault. So I'm going to speak to the customer and see if they want the coil replaced or coils replaced. Now generally I wouldn't do this on a coil that I felt had half a chance, but since we've proved that this one has had it, I just want to show you quite clearly that it is faulty. So I've left my spark plug totally out, and I'll just turn him on and it'll earth out here. There you go, look at that, it's quite clear, isn't it? There's definite evidence that that thing is shorted through that little point. So yep, I've ordered another one for the customer and we'll pop him into place. And then of course the spark plugs need to be replaced on a regular basis, just like the manufacturer suggested. Elsewhere it seems okay, it's just that spot. Oh, nice crack there, Max. Look at that. Yeah, that's been spotting onto the cylinder head for a while now. That's for sure. I'll check the others. I've just gone ahead and checked all the other ignition coils and I'm happy with the insulation. There's no breakdown apart from this guy, and I tell you what, she's pretty warm, this one. It's not happy being put through its paces, but as you can see close up, there's definitely a fault there. I'll show you inside the cylinder head now and give you an idea that this will leave a mark on the cylinder head. I'm now in number one spark plug hole. I've popped my spark plug back in, but have a look across there to one side. You can see that there's a black line there, and I'll see if I can zoom in a fraction further and hopefully not go out of focus. See that black mark on the side of the head? That is where the spark has been jumping from that point that we checked before right across to the cylinder head rather than across the spark plug gap. That there is evidence that the spark plugs have not been replaced on a regular basis, and of course that for schnookers, your coils guys, you must replace your spark plugs at their due interval. Don't stretch them out, and obviously whoever serviced this thing last didn't do it, you know, one time or two times, and of course the spark plugs were due for replacement on their next service, which I would have caught, but in this case the damage has already been done. We're up for another ignition coil. Done. I'm still learning some of the features of the G-Scan 3. Amazing tool, really happy with it. One thing over here in the Hyundai section, which I haven't seen in other sections, is called a mini DTC guide. So diagnostic trouble code guide. Let's just hit on that fella. Yeah, look at that. Got some information over here. So for the P0300, it gives you a little bit of a guide as to what you could check. And I started with the ignition system. That was my first port of call. I thought that that would be the best area to look. Let's go into the other one there. What do we got there? P0301, and once again, ignition, fuel system, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's a good little guide there. Give you some, like it says, it's a mini one. You know, it's not overly detailed, but it's a good start. And not a bad little feature that I wasn't aware of before. Cool. So just get rid of all those fault codes now. Start it up and see how she runs. It's still got the dodgy coil in it, but it's got a good spark plug in it. I just want to use it to see if it clears the codes. And also, if I'm just going to move the vehicle to put it outside, so I just want to make sure that that's okay. So we'll start it up, run it, see how she goes. And of course, in true Hyundai style, you've got to put your foot on the clutch before you can start the thing. There we go. All right, cool. We got, shall we count the cylinders? 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. Okay, just keep in mind I've still got the original #1 coil in it, the one that was tracking, but I've got a good spark plug in there. So to move the vehicle, put it outside and get it ready for the new coil when it turns up on Monday. Yeah, happy with it. Sounds pretty good. So the part finally arrived. Ignition coil ready to go. Out with the old and in with the new. Job's done, ready for a road test. I've just double checked with the scan tool and no fault codes present. Excellent. So I'm back from a road test with a little Hyundai and she went really, really well. I put it through its paces by putting it in top gear at low kilometres and absolutely floored it. If it was an ignition fault, it would hesitate and carry on. But in this case, smooth as a baby's backside. Absolutely awesome. So once again, this highlights the importance of maintenance on a regular basis according to the manufacturer's specifications if you don't want faults in your vehicle. Unfortunately, the customer will have to pay the price on this one because previous technicians haven't done it correctly and followed the manufacturer's guidance. I hope you got something out of this video today, and if you did enjoy the video but haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, give it a like and feel free to comment down below. Of course, don't forget about that notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos, do you? No. So until next time, guys, this is MiracleMAX signing off. I will catch you later.